Today's thought has to do with seeking out the things in life that help transform our experience, that help change how we see the world, change what we're capable of, change our attitudes about things. And I mentioned seeking it out because though all of us have had something in our lives that's happened, maybe it was a book we found, maybe it was a talk we heard, maybe it was a friendship we forged, maybe it was an experience we went through or a program we attended. There's something in our lives that's helped transform us in a positive way. And I'm not talking about like the other day when I was almost hit by the car and sort of like semi in the mildest form possible, vaguely, slightly traumatizing in a way that kind of changes our worldview. But really the positive things that we hear, that we experience, that we go through, that we get to the other side of, and it just shifts how we look at things in a better way. And I point this out today for two reasons. First of all, that they tend to not happen automatically. That sometimes we might stumble into them. Quite often we weren't expecting it when it happened. It's something that we were already in school anyway. We happened to get an exceptional teacher. We were already out meeting people and happened to meet someone who really just changed how we see stuff. Or just, browsing in a bookstore, found something that weren't expecting to see, and then there it was. And so that we can stumble upon them. But what happens is, if we're not attentive to the circumstances that created them, if we don't think back to where they came from, then those kind of moments start to slow down throughout our lives. They start to happen less and less, in part because we're no longer being sent to the library. We're no longer being exposed to hundreds of our peers in our age group every single year like we did through school. We're no longer having a different set of teachers put in front of us constantly. That as adults, it begins to be our choice to find teachers to put ourselves in front of, or mentors, guides, whatever, or books that we choose to fling ourselves in front of, and so on, in the same kind of way. And so it just raising the point that if you think back to when those positive transformations have happened, what were the circumstances around that, and how can you as best as possible reproduce that as part of the search? And it's never automatic, it's never easy, it's never as simple as, it's not a commodity, right? It's not like, well, I need straws, I'm going to go buy straws. I need cups, go buy cups. It's not like I want inspiration or some change to my worldview, so I can just go get that. But it only really happens if you're out there with an open mind to the idea it can happen and proactively seeking it, proactively figuring out how can I recreate those situations in the past that have positively transformed my worldview. Now, secondarily, the other reason to bring it up is because a lot of the stuff that I kind of study on the side, because running a small business, has to do with marketing and messaging and storytelling and all those kind of aspects. And one of the things that a pretty popular source is actually, I think it's a Seth Godin text, and some of his examples date back to like Excite.com and Palm Pilot and the world of the 90s, so, give or take. But part of the message that rings true in this pretty timeless way has to do with this idea that a lot of things that are sold to us, when people are paying for advertising to put products in front of us, to put them on our television channels, to run banner ads or send us emails, whatever, oftentimes those are things that are built to reinforce a worldview we already have. That it's much easier from a business perspective not to challenge or transform your worldview, but instead to figure out who already thinks that way and just sell to them things that reinforce their view. And we're all kind of vaguely familiar with this already. It touches the surface of what people call the filter bubble online, all that mess. But the reason I point this out is that those are the people who go out of their way to put the things in front of you are ones who are not there to help transform your worldview in a positive way. They're happy to cash in on you preserving your worldview. That it takes that effort from them will usually be mainly for what's easiest to make the sale, which is going to be reinforcing the way you already see something. Which is, again, another reason why we can't wait for the outside world to force this upon us. Outside world's often got an incentive to help kind of keep us where we're at. That we're so much more predictable, so much easier to market to, so much easier to speak to, so much easier to address as an audience, if we're not the dynamic, constantly changing, constantly evolving beings that we're capable of being. But that takes the initiative from us to go out there and seek out, like I say, whether it's teachers, books, experiences, things to try. And another way to think about this is in terms of how we're just investing our limited time and money and energy. And that, there's ways we can invest things to get material things. There's ways we can invest to get experiences. And this is really about the third category of how can we invest in a way that really helps us level up our character, if we think in RPG terms, where we are left either more able to do something than we were before, or maybe less inhibited to do something that we technically were capable of, but weren't really connecting the dots, weren't really seeing through because of something about our worldview, something either holding us back, something causing us to just feel like maybe it wasn't for us or wasn't something within our abilities. And so just looking for how can I seek out those kind of transformational opportunities. And that's different for everybody, right? I mean, that's part of why this is not an easy question to answer. But sometimes, again, I think the important thing is to even bring up what questions we each have to find our own answers to. So that's the thought for the day. No direct connection to my other stuff, at least not specifically. But obviously finds a sort of thread throughout everything that I do. But anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Have another video for tomorrow.